Go. Hello, everybody. Today we're here at Carlisle, and we're going to install one of our new heat kits on Ryan's T8. We've got some instructions here we're going to follow that I've actually already have written. Normally, we would start with uninstalling the heat cover, but Ryan has already removed that, so we're going to start to the rest of it. Take both of these sides of this hoses loose to make it easier, because we're gonna raise this bracket. We need this hose out of the way because there is a clamp right here that's turned, and you have to turn that. Obviously, this car has not been apart in a while.
It's been a while since the intake hose has been on.
So,
probably fit pretty good.
Do that, and we just take and we can rotate this. And there it pops off. And we want to be careful you don't want to drop anything right here. A lot of times I'll put a rag right here. But we just used our rag to clean a dirty spot, so we're going to pretend that's already been done. Pop this loose. There's a little pin here. We'll do that in a second, actually. Take this loose first. I'm using a long extension here today because I don't want to drop anything into the grass. Now there's two nuts on this bracket. We have to take this bracket off because on cars with a heat cover, it will interfere with the module. So place that there.
The real one, not the. Does it say something about the fact that my car is parked next to it?
So we're just going to kind of lift this up and move this out of the way a little bit.
Say something that my car is next to it.
Take my pocket screwdriver. Just want to push down on this and pull slightly. But these are always stiff, so you got to be careful with them.
Probably not the easiest example car you could have gotten.
Yep, no, that's fine, man. We got to start somewhere. Okay. Now that doesn't mean it's all the way ready. To get it completely pulled, you see that moving just that extra little bit, and it pops right off. I'm going to just tuck this right here for the moment. Do the same thing again. You'll see that one released a little bit easier. You still want to be careful here because you don't want to mess up your connectors. And there we go. You can also take a screwdriver and press down here. It looks like this one moved better. See that last little bit? And off she pops. Again, we'll just lay this right here. Now what we're attempting to get to are these 4 bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4. And pay attention, we also have a ground at this point. You would think the engine module bolted to the engine, we wouldn't need an additional ground, but
that ground is very important.
That ground is very important.
The car will not start without that ground. I think Eric learned that one the hard way. He didn't have the ground all the way down. He was like, why did I? Your ground's a computer. So if the computer just won't operate properly, yeah. It freaks people out, you know, because like you go to start the car after playing the ECU and it's dead, you think it won't start, and really it's just that one bolt's not. No, only T5's not like that. It's just a T8.
Okay, you see we're carefully removing those 4 bolts. We're going to reuse one of the 4. Okay. Now obviously I have a full set of directions here, but since I've done this a few times, I'm not having to refer to them every other page. But here's where we're going to talk about it. Right here's the difference between the 2 year models. On a page, on 03 to 06, we only need 1 nut. So we have to lift this up, and we're going to add a nut to both of these studs for 03 to 06. For 03, from 07 to 11, we're going to put 2 nuts on this stud because we need to pull it up that much more for those year models. So since this is the 03 through 11, excuse me, grab an extra kit. And since this is a what year model?
2008.
2008. That means we need 4 of these pieces out of this kit. So we'll go in here, pull out 4 nuts. You have to be careful when you go through the kit. We actually have 4 nuts, and you'll notice a lock nut. And we'll get to that one in a moment.
5 larges and 4 extra larges.
Put that back in there for the moment.
First come, first serve. They're $16 a piece, and you must take a picture of our cue card, our QR code.
And we'll install these one at a time and torque each. And unfortunately, I forgot to bring my torque wrench today, but it's not my first rodeo.
I trust your fingers. You know.
Uh-oh, T8 time, huh?
We're installing ECU spacers,
Oh.
heat insulators, courtesy of Jeff.
And that is 16 foot-pounds. Trust me.
I heard the click.
So, not a gorilla.
Not a gorilla. Not one Ugga-Dugga. It's a short Ugga-Dugga. Basically 16 foot-pounds is snug. Okay, that's our first nut. And we're going to go in and put our second round. All right, thank you. Each one gets 2. And it's a difference in the early models and later models have different size studs right here. And that's why that the later models get 2 and the early models just get 1. You wouldn't think that there would be something as small a difference as a stud length, but it does make a difference. So all we're doing basically is just locking those onto each other.
In the carburetor.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so now
Tell people.
we're gonna go here. Now when we go back, in this particular kit, I've chose to only use 3 of the 4 mounting points. So what we're going to use this top left and the 2 bottom. This now becomes our new ground, and we'll show you how we're going to use that first. So we'll go to our kit, pull out the supplied ground wire and the supplied nut. Supplied bolt, because there is a bolt for this, because you cannot use the standard bolt, it would be too long. Otherwise we could just reuse one of the ones we had just taken off. So we're going to take this, and we're going to take the existing ground, and we're going to put this bolt here, and we're going to attach it there. Again, 16 foot-pounds. This is now our new ground that we will add back to the module. Take place of this ground, which is very important. We've already discussed that.
All important ground scrap.
Now we're going to take our 3 supplied isolators, and these pretty much we just hand install. See our 3 isolators. Put them in this position. These are already threaded correctly, so they just go in snug.
Big hill climb wing.
No, it's okay. I got it.
You got it?
Yep. Hold my mouth just right. There we go. And we snug this up. Now we're almost done. Now we're going to take one of our existing nuts. Excuse me, one of our existing bolts. And we're going to grab our ECM back that we put right here. And our proper orientation would have been right like this. As you see, here's the hole we would not have used before. You can see how you have the 2 and then the 2. So we're going to put the ground wire now here. And this is where the lock nut comes in. And the early models, I've also included a star washer for extra gripping power, just to make sure that this ground wire does not come loose. Actually, I'm going to put that on the bottom. Excuse me. So here's what we're going to have. We're going to have a lock washer and a lock nut. Okay, now I need my wrench. Get rid of this extension for the moment. 10 and 10. All the tools and instructions are included. Tighten this again. 16 foot-pounds. Now there's our ground wire, secured with lock nut. And as you can see, I have done it on the top side of the vacuum hose. So it's easier to take this back loose, trust me.
This is the installation kit. So he's
See, I put the ground to the top and the nut to the bottom. And I dropped the washer, but we'll be fine. That's why we use a lock nut. Oh, there's the lock washer. It's stuck. See right there. So we'll just go back and put that back on the ground and use it because it's already in place.
1867.
There we go. Torqued to our foot-pounds. Now we layer back into place. Rack it up slightly. Now the trick is to mount all 3 bolts loose before we tighten them. So we reused all of our bolts.
I gotta go walk to my car, check what's in the trunk.
No one's going to be there to do that for you. I'm going to do that for you.
Like I said, the key is to start all 3 bolts before. There is a slight misalignment. We'll take that into account. Now we're going to torque these back down. Now these will pull into the rubber somewhat, so you'll feel a little resistance start. Excuse me, wrong one, dummy. Just take your time and move around it. See it slowly pulling down, and you'll feel it draw flush. And again, we'll 16 foot-pounds. Okay, now this is the point where we want to check our clearance between the bracket, and that's why we installed the nuts. So we'll set the bracket back and look, and sure enough, we've got about 2-3 millimeters, which is perfect. We're going to take our existing nuts back that we used earlier, place those back. Again, 16 foot-pounds. Check our clearance again. Good clearance. Make sure everything else looks good. Okay, so now we're going to connect our ECU back up. Got our left and a right connector. Push down. Slowly push and rotate at the same time until you hear that snap. Repeat with the other side. Make sure it's all fully open before you try to reinsert it, because that will definitely cause a problem. It should slide down smoothly. Right like that. Okay, so now we've got the nuts. We're good on the module. We've got the new ground attached. We've got our clearance. Everything's hooked back up. Have an extra hose here. Now we're going to reattach our hose from the intercooler over to the throttle body. And this is where you have to make sure you get your boot back on well, otherwise the first test drive you'll pop that sucker right off there. All right, let me get my, excuse me here, my other socket. Lined up about right like here.
quarter-inch swivel.
Yeah, long. I just brought this in case of whatever. I didn't know what kind of car I would encounter when I did this test on. So
You just got a dirty one. And a little more. So I went and drove a lap around, and then Eric called me. And was
right, and at this point, we would reinstall the upper cover. It snaps in here, and you've got 2 screws, actually 3 screws that go right here, not covered in here. That's it. So at this point, let's just crank it up, make sure we're good to go. And we've measured 50-degree reduction in temperature with this particular modification. And that's all there is to it. And that's all from Carlisle. Thanks for watching.